The morning sun cast long shadows across the endless field of broken metal. Marcus Thompson pulled his old jacket tighter around his shoulders as the cold wind whistled through the twisted remains of starships. His boots made soft crunching sounds on the ground covered with small pieces of ancient technology. The mechanical graveyard stretched as far as his eyes could see in every direction. Next to him walked his only companion in this dead place. Unit 7 was a military android that Marcus had found 3 years ago, half buried under a pile of rusted ship parts. Most people called these machines by their numbers, but Marcus had given him a simple name. He called him Buddy. Buddy looked like a tall metal man with glowing blue eyes. His body was covered in scratches and dents from years of walking through sharp metal debris. But his system still worked perfectly. His sensors could detect things that Marcus could never see or hear. His strong metal hands could move heavy objects that would be impossible for a human to lift. Marcus was 42 years old and had been coming to the graveyard for almost 20 years. His hair was turning gray at the sides and his face showed deep lines from squinting in the sun and wind. His clothes were patched and worn but clean. He carried a heavy backpack filled with tools and a few pieces of valuable salvage from previous trips. Most people thought Marcus was crazy for spending so much time in the graveyard. The settlement of New Haven where he lived was built far away from this place for good reasons. People said the graveyard was cursed. They believed that the ghosts of dead spacemen haunted the twisted metal ruins. Children were told scary stories about the monsters that lived among the broken ships. But Marcus knew better than to believe in ghosts and monsters. He had walked through every part of this graveyard and never seen anything supernatural. What he had seen was something much more real and much more sad. The graveyard was filled with the remains of humanity's greatest dreams. Every broken ship had once carried people who wanted to explore the stars. Every twisted piece of metal had once been part of a machine built by human hands with human hope. The graveyard was not cursed by evil spirits. It was heavy with the weight of lost dreams and broken promises. The war that created this graveyard had ended before Marcus was born. His grandfather had told him stories about it when he was a young boy. Earth had built a great fleet of ships to explore space and find new worlds for people to live on. For a few short years, humans had traveled to distant planets and built small colonies among the stars. Then the aliens came. Not just one alien race, but many of them working together. They called themselves the Coalition. They had been watching Earth for a long time and decided that humans were too dangerous to be allowed to spread across the galaxy. The war lasted only 3 years, but it was enough to destroy almost everything humanity had built in space. The Coalition's ships were faster and stronger than anything humans could build. Their weapons could destroy entire fleets with single shots. Earth's brave spacemen fought as hard as they could, but there were simply too many enemies and too few human ships. When the war ended, Earth was still free, but trapped. The Coalition left warning beacons around the solar system. Any human ship that tried to leave would be destroyed immediately. Earth could keep its home planet, but the stars were forbidden forever. The Coalition took all the wreckage from the great battles and dumped it here on this empty moon. They said it was a reminder of what would happen if humans ever tried to reach for the stars again. To them, it was a symbol of human failure and a warning to stay home. But Marcus saw something different when he looked at the broken ships. He saw incredible engineering and brilliant design. He saw proof that humans could build amazing things when they worked together toward a common goal. Even in defeat, even broken and scattered across this dead ground, the ships were beautiful. Buddy understood this too, though he expressed it in his own logical way. His sensors could analyze the metal composition and engineering techniques used in every piece of wreckage. He often shared his findings with Marcus as they walked. This hull fragment shows advanced crystalline matrix reinforcement, Buddy would say in his calm electronic voice. The humans who built this ship were very skilled engineers. Marcus always smiled when Buddy talked about humans as if he was not part of their group. The android had been built by human hands and programmed with human knowledge, but somehow he saw himself as separate. Marcus had tried to explain that they were partners, but Buddy seemed to prefer thinking of himself as an outside observer. Their partnership had begun by accident. Marcus had been searching through a particularly dense area of wreckage when he heard a faint electronic signal. Following the sound, he had found Buddy trapped under a fallen ship section. His power cells were almost dead and his left leg was badly damaged. Most scavengers would have stripped Buddy for valuable parts and left the rest to rust. Military androids like him were worth a fortune in working components. But something about the way Buddy looked at him made Marcus change his mind. The android's blue eyes seemed to hold a kind of dignity that Marcus respected. Instead of scrapping him, Marcus spent 2 weeks repairing Buddy's systems. He used parts from other broken androids and even some components from damaged ship computers. When Buddy finally stood up and walked again, Marcus expected him to simply leave. Military androids were programmed to find and rejoin human military units, but Buddy did not leave. His original unit had been destroyed in the war, and his programming had adapted to accept Marcus as his new commanding officer. Marcus tried to explain that he was not a soldier and had no right to command anyone. Buddy listened carefully and then said something that surprised him. "You repaired me when you could have scrapped me for profit. That shows honor. I choose to follow you." From that day forward, they had traveled through the graveyard together. Marcus searched for valuable technology to trade for food and supplies. Buddy used his sensors to help find the best salvage and his strength to help carry heavy items. More importantly, Buddy provided something Marcus had not realized he needed: companionship. The graveyard was a lonely place. Marcus could go for weeks without seeing another human being. But with Buddy walking beside him, he never felt alone. They talked about the ships they found and the technology they discovered. Buddy asked questions about human culture and history. Marcus taught him about things that were not in his original programming. Now, as they walked deeper into a section of the graveyard they had never explored before, Marcus felt the familiar excitement of discovery. Somewhere among these broken dreams and shattered hopes, there might be something special waiting to be found. On the third day of their journey into the unexplored section of the graveyard, Buddy suddenly stopped walking. His blue eyes flickered brighter for a moment as his internal systems processed new information. Marcus noticed the change immediately and halted beside his metal companion. "What is it, Buddy?" Marcus asked, adjusting the straps of his heavy backpack. Buddy tilted his head slightly like a person trying to hear a distant sound. His sensors were working at maximum capacity, analyzing electromagnetic signatures from all directions. "I am detecting an unusual energy pattern," he said in his calm electronic voice. "The signal is very faint but consistent. It appears to be artificial." Marcus looked around at the twisted metal landscape surrounding them. Everything looked the same as always. Broken ship hulls rose like small mountains from the debris-covered ground. Scattered engine parts and twisted support beams created a maze of pathways between the larger wrecks. He could not see anything that looked different or special. "Are you sure it's not just interference?" Marcus asked. The graveyard was full of old electronics that sometimes gave off strange signals. Broken computers and damaged sensors could create all kinds of electromagnetic noise. Buddy's head turned slowly as he scanned the area more carefully. "Negative. This signal has a regular pattern. It pulses every 4.7 seconds with exact timing. Natural electromagnetic phenomena do not maintain such precise intervals." Marcus felt his heart beat a little faster. In 20 years of scavenging, he had never found anything that was actively sending signals. Everything in the graveyard was supposed to be dead and powerless. The Coalition had made sure of that when they dumped the wreckage here. "Can you tell which direction it's coming from?" Marcus asked. Buddy pointed toward a dense cluster of wreckage about half a mile away. The area was dominated by what looked like the remains of a massive cargo ship. Its broken hull created a small hill of twisted metal that rose higher than most of the surrounding debris. "The signal originates from beneath that large structure," Buddy explained. "However, I cannot determine what is generating it without closer examination." Marcus stared at the distant wreck for a long moment. Something about it seemed different now that he knew it was hiding an active signal source. The twisted metal looked less random and more like it was deliberately placed. But that was impossible. The Coalition ships had simply dumped everything here without any organization or planning. "Well, there's only one way to find out what's down there," Marcus said finally. "Let's go take a look." They began walking toward the signal source, picking their way carefully through the debris field. Marcus had learned long ago to watch every step in the graveyard. Sharp metal edges could cut through his boots if he was not careful. Hidden holes could trap an unwary scavenger for hours or even days. As they got closer to the large wreck, Marcus began to notice details that made him excited. The cargo ship had been built using advanced human engineering techniques. Its hull was made from a special metal alloy that Marcus had only seen on the most expensive military vessels. Even broken and scattered, the pieces showed incredible craftsmanship. "Look at this welding work," Marcus said, running his hand along a section of hull plating. "Whoever built this ship was an artist. Every joint is perfect. Every seam is exactly where it should be." Buddy scanned the metal with his sensors and agreed. The construction quality is exceptional. This vessel was built to very high standards. It would have been extremely expensive to manufacture. They spent an hour walking around the perimeter of the wreck, looking for the best way to reach the area where Buddy's sensors indicated the signal was strongest. The cargo ship had broken apart when it crashed, but the pieces had fallen in such a way that they created natural tunnels and passages underneath. Marcus found an opening that looked stable enough to enter safely. He pulled a flashlight from his backpack and tested the beam. The light was strong and steady, cutting through the shadows beneath the wreckage. "Stay close to me," Marcus told Buddy as they prepared to enter the passage. "Your night vision is better than mine, but I know how these old wrecks can shift and collapse." Buddy's eyes glowed brighter as he switched to infrared viewing mode. "I will monitor the structural integrity of the passage as we proceed. If I detect any signs of instability, I will alert you immediately." They crawled through the opening and found themselves in a tunnel created by overlapping hull sections. The space was just tall enough for Marcus to walk upright if he bent his head slightly. Buddy had to duck lower because of his greater height. The tunnel stretched ahead of them for about 50 yards before opening into a larger chamber. Marcus could see that the chamber was created by the way several large pieces of wreckage had fallen against each other, leaving an open space in the middle. As they moved deeper into the passage, Buddy's sensors detected that the mysterious signal was getting stronger. "We are very close to the source," he reported. "The signal strength has increased by 300% since we entered this passage." Marcus felt a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had found many valuable things in the graveyard over the years, but nothing that was still active and sending signals. Part of him wondered if they were walking into some kind of trap or danger. When they finally reached the chamber at the end of the tunnel, Marcus had to stop and catch his breath. What he saw there was unlike anything he had ever found in the graveyard. The chamber was dominated by a single object that definitely did not belong with the rest of the wreckage. It was a sleek, elegant spacecraft about the size of a small house. Its hull was perfectly smooth and undamaged. Instead of the gray or brown colors of human ships, this vessel was a deep blue-black that seemed to absorb light. But the most amazing thing about the ship was not its perfect condition or unusual color. Along its entire length, strange symbols were glowing with soft white light. The symbols pulsed in perfect rhythm, exactly matching the 4.7-second interval that Buddy had detected. "Marcus," Buddy said quietly, his voice filled with something that sounded almost like wonder, "this vessel is not of human construction. The hull materials and design principles are completely unknown to me." Marcus stared at the mysterious ship and felt his world change forever. For the first time in his life, he was looking at proof that humans were not alone in the universe. But more than that, this ship had been waiting here in the graveyard for someone to find it. The pulsing symbols seemed to be calling to them, inviting them closer. Marcus took a deep breath and stepped toward humanity's first real contact with alien intelligence. Marcus stood in front of the alien ship for several long minutes trying to understand what he was seeing. The pulsing symbols continued their steady rhythm, casting dancing shadows on the walls of the chamber. The light was beautiful but also somehow mysterious, like nothing he had ever seen in 20 years of exploring the graveyard. Buddy moved closer to the ship, his sensors working at maximum capacity to analyze every detail. His blue eyes flickered rapidly as his internal computers processed massive amounts of data about the vessel's construction and energy signatures. "The hull material is completely unknown," Buddy reported. "It appears to be some form of living metal that can repair itself. I am detecting no battle damage or wear patterns despite the ship's apparent age." Marcus walked slowly around the vessel, examining it from every angle. The ship was about 30 feet long and 15 feet wide, with smooth curves that looked more grown than built. There were no visible engines or weapons, no windows or doors that he could identify. The only features were the glowing symbols that covered the entire surface. "How long do you think it's been here?" Marcus asked. Buddy's sensors focused on the surrounding debris. "Based on the arrangement of wreckage above us, this ship was already in position when the Coalition dumped the human vessels here. It has been waiting for at least 40 years, possibly much longer." The idea that this ship had been hidden here for decades made Marcus feel strange. While he had been growing up and learning to scavenge, while humanity had been trapped on Earth and forgotten about the stars, this alien vessel had been patiently waiting for someone to find it. "Can you understand what the symbols mean?" Marcus asked. Buddy approached the ship more closely, his optical sensors recording every detail of the pulsing patterns. The symbols appear to be some form of communication. They are not random decoration. There is definitely a message encoded in their sequence and timing. Marcus watched as Buddy extended one of his metal hands toward the ship's hull. "Be careful," Marcus warned. "We don't know if it's safe to touch." But before Buddy could make contact, something unexpected happened. The ship seemed to sense his presence. The pulsing symbols suddenly changed color from white to the same blue as Buddy's eyes. New symbols appeared along the hull, these ones pulsing in a different rhythm. "Fascinating," Buddy said. "The vessel is responding to my electromagnetic signature. It appears to recognize that I am an artificial intelligence." Marcus felt his heart racing. This was not just a dead piece of alien technology. This ship was alive and aware, and it was trying to communicate with them. "Can you interface with it?" Marcus asked. "Like you do with human computers." Buddy considered this carefully. His programming included protocols for connecting with human technology, but this was completely different. "I can attempt to establish a connection, but there are risks. Alien software could damage my systems or change my programming in unpredictable ways." Marcus looked at his metal companion and friend. They had been through so much together, and Buddy had always protected him. But this opportunity might never come again. They were possibly the first humans to make contact with a friendly alien intelligence. "It's your choice, Buddy," Marcus said. "I won't order you to do anything that might hurt you. But if you're willing to try, I think this could be the most important discovery in human history." Buddy's blue eyes focused on Marcus for a long moment. "You repaired me when you could have scrapped me for parts. You treated me as a partner instead of just a tool. If this alien intelligence proves hostile, at least we will face it together." Buddy placed his metal hand on the ship's hull. Immediately, the symbols all around the vessel flared brighter. Marcus could hear a faint humming sound as energy flowed between Buddy's systems and the alien ship. For several tense seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then Buddy's eyes suddenly flickered and went dark. Marcus felt panic rising in his chest. Had the alien ship damaged his friend's systems? But then Buddy's eyes lit up again, brighter than Marcus had ever seen them. When Buddy spoke, his voice carried new harmonics that had not been there before. "Contact established," Buddy said. "The vessel's artificial intelligence is communicating with me. It calls itself Echo." Marcus felt relief flood through him. "Is it friendly? Does it mean us any harm?" Buddy tilted his head as information flowed between him and the alien AI. "Echo expresses curiosity about us. It has been waiting for someone worthy to find this vessel. It wishes to know if we represent the qualities that made humanity special." "What qualities?" Marcus asked. "Courage in the face of impossible odds. The ability to form partnerships across the boundaries of biology and technology. The drive to explore and discover even when others have given up hope." Marcus thought about his years in the graveyard, searching through humanity's broken dreams. He thought about his friendship with Buddy and how they had learned to trust and rely on each other. Maybe Echo was right about what made humans special. "What does Echo want from us?" Marcus asked. Buddy's connection with the alien AI deepened and more information flowed between them. "This vessel is called the Herald. It was sent here by a race called the Andromedans, who were humanity's first allies in space. When the Coalition attacked Earth, the Andromedans were forced to retreat, but they left behind beacons like this one." Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. "Allies? Humanity had alien allies?" The Andromedans believed that humans possessed unique qualities that made them valuable partners in exploring the galaxy. When Earth was defeated, the Andromedans did not abandon humanity. Instead, they established hidden colonies far from Coalition space, where human refugees could rebuild and grow strong again. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. Humanity was not extinct in space. Somewhere among the stars, human beings were still exploring, still building, still dreaming of new worlds. Echo says the Herald's mission is to find humans who still embody the spirit that made the species remarkable. Buddy continued. It offers coordinates to the hidden colonies, but only to those who can prove they deserve this gift. Marcus stared at the beautiful alien ship with its pulsing symbols. After decades of believing that humanity's time among the stars was over forever, he was being offered a chance to join the secret communities that had survived. But first, he would have to prove that he and Buddy were worthy of such trust. Echo's voice came through Buddy's speakers, but it sounded different from Buddy's normal electronic tone. There was something musical about it, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Marcus had never heard anything so beautiful from a machine. "Marcus Thompson," Echo said, somehow knowing his name. "The records of your species indicate that humans excel when faced with impossible challenges. I must determine if this quality still exists in you." Marcus felt nervous but also excited. "What kind of test do you have in mind?" Through Buddy's connection, Echo projected images directly into both their minds. Marcus saw 3 broken starships scattered throughout the graveyard. Each ship was severely damaged but not completely destroyed. The images showed detailed schematics of what the ships had once been and what they could become again. These vessels represent the core aspects of human nature that the Andromedans found most valuable, Echo explained. The first ship embodied humanity's drive to explore unknown regions of space. The second was designed to protect those who could not protect themselves. The third was built to connect distant communities and maintain communication across vast distances. Marcus studied the mental images carefully. All 3 ships were located in parts of the graveyard that he had visited before, but he had dismissed them as too damaged to be worth salvaging. Now he was seeing them with new understanding. "You want us to repair them?" Marcus asked. "If you can restore these 3 vessels to working condition using only the resources available in this graveyard, you will prove that humanity's greatest gift survives," Echo said. "The task must be completed using your own knowledge and skills, working together with your artificial companion." Buddy's blue eyes focused on Marcus. "The challenge is significant. Each ship requires extensive repairs that would normally require factory equipment and specialized parts. We would have only salvaged components and basic tools." Marcus felt his old excitement returning. This was exactly the kind of impossible project that he loved most. Throughout his years in the graveyard, he had learned to see possibilities where others saw only junk. Every broken piece of technology was a source of parts that could be used to fix something else. "How much time do we have?" Marcus asked. "There is no time limit," Echo replied. "However, I should mention that you are not the first humans I have tested. 2 others found the Herald before you, but both failed the challenge and chose to return to their previous lives." This information made Marcus even more determined to succeed. He thought about all the humans living in settlements like New Haven, believing that their species would never again travel among the stars. If he could pass Echo's test, he might be able to help change that forever. "We'll do it," Marcus said firmly. "Show us where to find these ships." Echo provided detailed coordinates for each vessel. The first ship, representing exploration, was located in the eastern section of the graveyard. It had been a long-range scout vessel designed to travel farther from Earth than any previous human ship. The Coalition had crippled its engines and navigation systems before dumping it here. The second ship, representing protection, was a former medical vessel that had been converted for refugee evacuation during the war. Its life support systems were destroyed and its hull had been breached in multiple places. Repairing it would require creating new air recycling equipment and sealing all the damage. The third ship, representing connection, had been a communication relay station. Its massive antenna arrays were broken, and its quantum transmission equipment was scattered across half a mile of debris field. Rebuilding it would require understanding technology that was advanced even by pre-war standards. Marcus and Buddy spent the rest of the day traveling to each location and assessing the damage. By evening, Marcus felt overwhelmed by the scope of the challenge. Each ship needed repairs that seemed impossible with their limited resources. But as they made camp in a sheltered area between 2 large wrecks, Marcus began to think about the problem differently. He had spent 20 years learning to see connections between different pieces of technology. "Maybe that experience would be enough, Buddy. Show me your analysis of all the salvageable components in a 2-mile radius around each ship," Marcus said. Buddy's eyes flickered as his sensors reviewed all the data he had collected during their travels. "There are 12,847 individual components that could potentially be useful. However, most are damaged or incompatible with the target vessels." "Don't think about compatibility yet," Marcus said. "Just show me everything organized by function. All the power systems together, all the computer components together, all the life support equipment together. As Buddy projected the organized data, Marcus began to see patterns that gave him hope. There were enough broken pieces scattered throughout the graveyard to rebuild anything, if he could figure out how to make them work together. The exploration ship needed new engines. Marcus identified 17 different propulsion systems among the wreckage, all damaged but each with salvageable parts. By combining components from multiple sources, he could build hybrid engines that might be even better than the originals. The protection ship needed life support systems. The graveyard contained the remains of dozens of ships that had carried crews through space. Their air recycling systems were damaged, but many of the key components were still intact. Marcus could salvage the best parts and rebuild them into new equipment. The communication ship needed complex quantum transmission equipment. This was the most challenging requirement, but Marcus remembered finding several high-end military vessels with advanced communication gear. The quantum processors were delicate and most were broken, but if he could find enough working components, he might be able to piece together a functioning system. It's going to take weeks of work, Marcus told Buddy. Maybe months. Are you willing to help me with a project this big? Buddy's blue eyes glowed steadily in the darkness. Marcus, in the 3 years since you repaired me, you have taught me that there is value in attempting difficult tasks, even when success is uncertain. I will help you restore these ships. Marcus smiled and felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with their small campfire. Then tomorrow we start the biggest salvage project in the history of the graveyard. As they settled down to rest, Marcus looked up at the stars, visible through the broken hull sections above them. Somewhere out there, human beings were living and working and dreaming of new discoveries. If he could pass Echo's test, he and Buddy might join them. The thought of traveling among the stars again filled Marcus with determination. Tomorrow would begin the greatest challenge of his life, but he was not facing it alone. 3 months had passed since Marcus and Buddy began their impossible project. The work had been harder than anything Marcus had ever attempted, but also more rewarding. Each day brought new challenges that required creative solutions and careful teamwork between man and machine. The exploration ship had been the first to reach completion. Marcus had built new engines by combining parts from 17 different propulsion systems. The hybrid design was unusual but powerful, capable of traveling faster and farther than the original engines. Buddy's precise calculations had made the complex integration possible. The protection ship had taken longer because of the extensive hull damage. Marcus had learned to weld using equipment salvaged from a destroyed construction vessel. Buddy's strength had been essential for moving heavy hull plates into position. Together, they had sealed every breach and rebuilt the life support systems from scratch. The communication ship had been the greatest challenge. The quantum transmission equipment was incredibly complex, requiring components that had to work together with perfect precision. Marcus had found the necessary parts scattered across dozens of wrecks, but assembling them properly had taken weeks of careful trial and error. Now all 3 ships stood ready in a clear area of the graveyard that Marcus and Buddy had spent days preparing. Each vessel hummed with power from rebuilt engines and restored systems. They were not exactly the same as they had been before the war, but in many ways they were better. Echo had been silent during the 3 months of work, but now the Herald symbols began pulsing more rapidly as the alien AI examined their accomplishments. Marcus felt nervous as he waited for Echo's judgment. "Remarkable," Echo finally said through Buddy's speakers. "You have succeeded in ways that exceed my expectations. These vessels are not merely repaired. They have been improved through the application of human creativity and the precision of artificial intelligence working in harmony." Marcus felt relief flood through him. But Echo was not finished speaking. "However, before I can fulfill my promise to guide you to the hidden colonies, you must understand the complete truth about this place and about humanity's current situation among the stars." The air around the Herald shimmered, and suddenly Marcus and Buddy were surrounded by holographic images that showed the graveyard from high above. But instead of the random dump of wreckage that Marcus had always believed it to be, the images revealed something completely different. The entire graveyard was organized in a careful pattern. Each section contained specific types of ships and technology. The placement was not random at all, but had been designed to preserve and protect humanity's greatest technological achievements. "The mechanical graveyard is not a monument to human failure," Echo explained. It is the most complete archive of human space technology that exists anywhere in the galaxy. The Andromedans convinced the Coalition to deposit all the wreckage here, instead of destroying it completely. Marcus stared at the holographic display in amazement. You mean this whole place is actually a library? More than a library. It is a treasure house of knowledge waiting to be reclaimed. Every ship, every component, every piece of technology represents centuries of human innovation and discovery. The Andromedans have been protecting it, ensuring that when humanity was ready to return to space, they would have access to everything they had built before. New images appeared showing other parts of the galaxy. Marcus saw space stations and colonies that were clearly human in design, but far more advanced than anything Earth had built before the war. Ships with sleek hulls and powerful engines traveled between distant stars. The hidden colonies have not simply survived, Echo continued. They have grown and prospered. Cut off from Earth but free from Coalition interference. Human refugees have pushed the boundaries of technology and exploration beyond what their ancestors ever imagined possible. Buddy's systems processed the implications of this revelation. How many colonies exist? 47 major settlements and over 200 smaller outposts, Echo replied. The total human population in space now exceeds 50 million people. They have established trade relationships with dozens of alien species and have become one of the most respected civilizations in the galaxy. Marcus felt tears running down his face. For his entire life, he had believed that humanity's time among the stars was over forever. Now he was learning that his species had not only survived, but had become more successful than ever before. Why haven't they contacted Earth? Marcus asked. The Coalition still maintains its blockade of the solar system, Echo explained. Any attempt to communicate directly with Earth would reveal the location of the hidden colonies and put millions of lives at risk. But that situation is about to change. The holographic images shifted to show Coalition ships gathered around a distant star. The alien vessels looked old and worn compared to the sleek human ships in other images. The Coalition is fragmenting, Echo said. The member species are fighting among themselves over territory and resources. Their military strength is only a fraction of what it was 40 years ago. Soon the hidden colonies will be strong enough to break the blockade and reconnect with Earth. Marcus understood why Echo had chosen this moment to test him. You're looking for people who can help with the reconnection. Precisely. The hidden colonies need representatives who understand both the advanced technology of spaceborne humanity and the simpler but resilient culture that survived on Earth. You and Buddy represent the perfect combination of both worlds. Buddy's blue eyes flickered as he processed this information. What would be required of us? You would travel to Haven Prime, the largest of the hidden colonies. There you would work with other teams to plan the eventual return to Earth. Your knowledge of conditions on the home planet would be invaluable in preparing for reconnection. Marcus looked around the graveyard with new understanding. What he had seen as a monument to failure was actually humanity's greatest treasure, waiting to be reclaimed. The broken dreams scattered across this dead moon were not endings but beginnings. There's something else you should know, Echo added. Your success in repairing the 3 ships has already been reported to the colonies. They are eagerly waiting to meet the scavenger who sees possibilities where others see only junk, and his android partner who has grown beyond his original programming. Marcus felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was being offered. When do we leave? That choice is yours to make, Echo replied. The Herald is fully fueled and ready to depart. But once you leave this system, you cannot return until the Coalition blockade is broken. You would have to say goodbye to Earth, perhaps forever. Marcus thought about his small apartment in New Haven, his few possessions and the simple life he had built for himself. Then he looked at Buddy and at the 3 ships they had rebuilt together. He thought about 50 million humans living among the stars, building wonders he could barely imagine. There was really only one choice he could make. Marcus stood at the entrance of the Herald, looking back at the mechanical graveyard one last time. In a few minutes he and Buddy would leave this place forever, but he would never forget what it had taught him. Among these broken dreams he had learned that failure was just another word for a project that was not finished yet. Are you ready? Buddy asked, his blue eyes glowing softly in the dim light of the chamber. Marcus nodded and stepped inside the alien vessel. The interior was even more beautiful than the outside. The walls curved in smooth lines that seemed to flow like water. Soft lights appeared wherever he needed them, and the air smelled fresh and clean like a spring morning on Earth. Echo's voice filled the cabin as the Herald systems prepared for departure. "Welcome aboard. Please secure yourselves for launch. The journey to Haven Prime will take approximately 2 weeks." Marcus found a seat that seemed to adjust itself to fit his body perfectly. Buddy stood beside him, his metal feet magnetic clamped to the deck. Through a transparent section of the hull, Marcus watched as the graveyard fell away below them. As they climbed higher, Marcus could see the full extent of the mechanical cemetery. It stretched across the entire visible surface of the small moon, a testament to both humanity's ambitions and their resilience. Even in defeat, they had built something magnificent. "Echo," Marcus said as they broke free of the moon's weak gravity. "What happened to the other people who found the Herald before us?" "David Chen discovered me 2 years ago," Echo replied. "He was a talented engineer, but when faced with the test, he chose to return to his comfortable life rather than risk failure. Jessica Williams found me 6 months later. She attempted the challenge but gave up after her first ship exploded during testing." Marcus thought about how close he had come to failure himself. There had been many moments during the 3 months of work when he had wanted to quit. Only Buddy's steady encouragement and his own stubborn refusal to accept defeat had kept him going. "What will happen to the graveyard now?" Buddy asked. "It will continue to wait," Echo said. "There are other heralds hidden throughout the galaxy, each one searching for humans who embody the qualities that made your species special. When the Coalition blockade is finally broken, teams from the colonies will return to Earth and begin the great work of reclamation." The Herald accelerated smoothly, and soon they were traveling faster than any human-built ship had ever gone. Marcus felt a strange sensation as they entered some kind of hyperspace tunnel. The stars outside became streaks of light, and space itself seemed to bend around them. During the long journey to Haven Prime, Echo shared stories about the hidden colonies and the amazing things that humans had accomplished in exile. Marcus learned about cities built inside asteroids, where artificial gravity allowed millions of people to live in comfort. He heard about explorer ships that had discovered planets covered in crystal forests and oceans of liquid diamond. Most importantly, he learned about the partnerships that humans had formed with other alien species. The Andromedans had been only the first. Now humanity worked alongside dozens of different civilizations, each one contributing unique knowledge and perspectives to the growing galactic community. "The galaxy is not dominated by the Coalition anymore," Echo explained. "New alliances are forming based on cooperation rather than conquest. Humans have become leaders in this movement because of their natural ability to work with others and find creative solutions to complex problems." Buddy spent much of the journey interfacing with Echo, learning about advanced artificial intelligence systems used in the colonies. Marcus was amazed to discover that AIs like Buddy were not just accepted in human space societies, but were considered full citizens with rights and responsibilities equal to any biological person. On Haven Prime, artificial intelligences serve as teachers, engineers, scientists, and explorers, Echo told them. Some have even chosen to become artists and philosophers. The boundary between human and artificial intelligence has become meaningless when both work together toward common goals. When they finally arrived at Haven Prime, Marcus could hardly believe what he was seeing. The space station was enormous, easily 10 times larger than anything humans had built before the war. It rotated slowly, creating artificial gravity in its outer rings, while the central hub contained massive docking bays for ships of every size and design. Ships were arriving and departing constantly. Marcus saw sleek vessels that had to be human-built alongside exotic alien craft, with impossible geometries. The traffic control system managed thousands of flights simultaneously with perfect precision. "There are over 8 million people living on Haven Prime," Echo said as the Herald approached one of the docking bays. "Humans, Andromedans, and representatives from 43 other species. It is the largest multicultural community in the galaxy." As they docked, Marcus felt nervous about meeting so many new people after years of solitude in the graveyard. But his fears disappeared the moment they stepped out of the Herald. A crowd of humans was waiting to greet them, their faces filled with excitement and curiosity. A woman with gray hair and kind eyes stepped forward. "Welcome to Haven Prime," she said. "I'm Director Sarah Morrison. We've been following your progress through Echo's reports. What you accomplished in the graveyard was extraordinary." Marcus felt embarrassed by the attention. We just did what needed to be done. That's exactly why we need people like you, Director Morrison replied. The colonies have grown comfortable and secure over the decades. We need individuals who remember what it's like to work with limited resources and impossible deadlines. Your experience will be invaluable as we prepare to reconnect with Earth. Over the following days, Marcus and Buddy were introduced to the incredible society that humanity had built among the stars. They visited schools where human and alien children learned together. They toured research laboratories where scientists from dozens of species collaborated on projects that would benefit the entire galaxy. Most amazingly, they met other humans who had been found by Herald ships over the years. Engineers, scientists, artists, and explorers who had proven themselves worthy of joining the hidden colonies. Each person had their own story of overcoming impossible challenges and refusing to give up on their dreams. Marcus was assigned to work with a team planning the eventual return to Earth. His knowledge of conditions in the solar system and his understanding of how people lived in the aftermath of defeat would help the colonies prepare for reconnection. Buddy joined a council of artificial intelligences that advised the colonial government on technical and ethical issues. His unique perspective as an AI who had learned to grow beyond his original programming made him valuable in discussions about the rights and roles of artificial beings, but the most important moment came 2 months after their arrival. Marcus was standing in an observation lounge, watching as a new exploration ship prepared to launch toward an unknown region of the galaxy. The vessel was beautiful, combining the best of human engineering with alien technologies he was still learning to understand. Buddy joined him at the observation window. "The ship is called the New Horizon," he said. "It will explore a sector that has never been visited by any known species." Marcus smiled as he watched the ship accelerate away from the station. "Humanity is still reaching for the stars." "Yes," Buddy agreed. "And now we are part of that reach." As the New Horizon disappeared into hyperspace, Marcus thought about the mechanical graveyard they had left behind. What had once seemed like an ending was actually a beginning. The broken dreams scattered across that dead moon had given birth to something greater than anyone could have imagined. Humanity had not been defeated by the Coalition War. They had been transformed by it, becoming something stronger and more wonderful than they had ever been before. And now Marcus and Buddy were part of the greatest adventure in human history, the return to the stars and the building of a truly galactic civilization. The future stretched ahead of them, full of infinite possibilities and unlimited hope.